Good evening. This is 5 on AI. Today is Monday, June 19th, 2023. I'm your host, Kevin Metzger. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the AIA. Last week, France held its annual technology conference, Viva Tech. The French Prime Minister was interviewed and is going to push hard for global regulation on AI at the next G7 conference. So what does this have to do with the AIA? The AIA is the European Union's Artificial Intelligence Act. It's a framework for how to regulate AIA. Here's a basic overview of the act. The draft of the AIA was released in April of 2021, and revisions are expected to be finalized after a vote in mid-June 2023. The AIA is particularly significant because it's set to be the first major AI regulation with the intent of shaping the global approach to AI regulation moving forward. The AIA classifies AI systems into three categories based on their risk level: unacceptable, high, and low minimal. AI systems considered to present an unacceptable risk, such as government-led social scoring, are outright banned. High-risk systems, like those used in predictive policing or border control, must meet specific requirements, including undergoing conformity assessments and adhering to monitoring requirements throughout their lifecycle. AI systems classified as lower minimal risk face fewer obligations, although they are encouraged to comply with the same standards voluntarily. The Act defines an AI system as software that is developed with one or more of the techniques and approaches listed in Annex 1 and can, for a given set of human-defined objectives, generate outputs such as content, predictions, recommendations, or decisions influencing the environment they interact with. The proposed AIA consists of several sections covering various areas such as prohibited AIA practices, specific rules for high-risk AI systems, transparency obligations, support for innovation, and governance and implementation at both the national and EU levels. It also outlines a framework for encouraging the voluntary application of high-risk systems requirements to non-high-risk AI systems. In other words, they're suggesting that the non-high-risk systems also go through this compliance regulation. The Act applies to businesses that utilize AI-based systems, impacting their compliance obligations and potentially their bottom line. If an output of an AI system is used within the EU, the business would be subject to the law regardless of where the business operator or system is based. That is really important because it regulates how systems built in the US will be able to supply their EU customers. The AIA has been subject to considerable debate with a particular focus on consumer protections and the definitions of AI. Critics argue that the AIA does not go far enough in outlining consumer protection or sufficiently safeguard the public from AI harm, bias, and unfairness. The Responsible AI Institute has proposed a framework consulting of 6 dimensions: data and systems operation, explainability, interpretability, accountability, consumer protection, and bias and fairness and robustness, which they argue should be represented in regulatory approaches to AI. Obviously, there are some concerns with how you would interpret bias and fairness, robustness, accountability, consumer protection, interpretability, explainability, and data and system operations. So all of that has to be considered, and honestly, I'm not sure how you regulate it. Additionally, the high-risk category there is a recommendation that in the high-risk category, there is a recommendation that deepfakes need to be labeled, which I think is great, except they have an exception. And the exception is, unless necessary for the exercise of a fundamental right or freedom or for reasons of public interest. So basically they're saying, everybody has to label their deep fakes unless it's coming from the government. And if it's coming from the government, we don't have to label them. And quite frankly, I do want the government I don't want the government to be allowed to create deep fakes and not label them. We already have enough conspiracy theories, and this will just lead to more. All right, so that's today's 5 on AI. I hope you enjoy this content. If you did, like, subscribe, share, and comment. Please note, all content is produced by Kevin Metzger in collaboration with AI.